So, Gamescope. Okay, so I think it's quite misunderstood, and I thought I'd talk about it and explain what it is, how it came about, and how it can help you. So, what I'm going to talk about is the history of SteamOS, what Gamescope's really for, and how you should use it. I think the title's quite clickbait, isn't it? It's like Gamescope, you're doing it wrong. But it's true, most people don't use it properly, and it's designed for a very specific purpose. And if you don't use it that way, then you're opening yourself up to loads of issues. Anyway, so that's the preamble. Let's dive in. Okay, so SteamOS, this is where it all starts. Steam is a huge part of the Linux infrastructure for gaming. Without Steam and Proton, we just wouldn't be here. We'd still be like 2% of the entire operating systems, I'd imagine, in the world, because Proton and Steam has propelled Linux into the normal common day usage type thing, far more than I can think of anything else. I mean, obviously, Linux is out there, as web servers and all this kind of business, but for everyday desktop use, there was no real reason to switch. Well, there is. I mean, there's reasons like AI crap and all that in your software, but there's no real reason to move over apart from that. So remove Steam from the equation and Valve. Well, would we be all jumping to Linux? Would it move fast? So we've got a lot, I think, to thank Valve for. And let's think about that, because basically Valve came up with the SteamOS because they saw in the future, I think it was Windows 8 or Windows 7, Microsoft started to be a little bit restrictive with what you could do. And their entire, I mean, it's a very weak situation for a business to be in if your entire infrastructure is tied to somebody who could just change the playing field. So they very smartly decided to switch to Linux, which is free, open source, they can control it, and they brought out SteamOS 1. Now that was Debian based, and basically they created the SteamOS and then they created a spec that any manufacturer could build a Steambox. Now this actually has happened before years ago with a format called MSX back in the early days of computing, where someone came up with a spec and everybody could create machines for it, and basically you installed the OS. MSX it was called, yeah, a long time ago. But it's a great idea. It means everybody can jump on, you can install your software, and off you go. So everybody could make a Steambox. They didn't do very well. It was really early days for Linux and games, sort of, and it just didn't have the pickup that they intended, and there was a lot of problems. And the main thing I think that they came across is when Linux is incredibly fragmented with desktop environments. We've got XFCE, we've got Hyperland, not then, but like we've got all this stuff going on. Mutter, what's that? GNOME, that's GNOME. All these different things, and you were playing games through this issue. The other thing about Debian is it's like not a rolling release. Debian's more, they update it. So graphics drivers, things like that, didn't change rapidly. I mean, if you put a 5060 card, 50 card in, or even a 9000 series card into Linux when they first came out, I know there was 0-day support for the AMD cards. You still have this progression. I mean, I couldn't get my 5060 working for ages until as using beta drivers, because they just didn't put the drivers out. So you can imagine doing this with a gaming system that people had invested in. So yeah, so they'd made the right move. They'd moved over to Linux. They just hadn't got it right. So something that they built whilst they were doing this, they realized that going through that desktop environment was tricky. They created something called Steam Manager Comp, I think it was, which was the inkling of Gamescope, of what it was going to be. Anyway, so let's fast forward. So now we've got the Steam Deck. Now, they've also now moved to Arch, and Proton, which is their translation layer for Windows games, has come on leaps and bounds. So now we've got SteamOS 3, which is on the Steam Deck, and we've all gone through all the iterations of it, and we're on 3.9 now, and I think 4 will probably come out when they drop the new boxes. And what they sort of realised that if you want to play games, you need a console-like experience. You need to control the environment. So that's why you get Gamescope. And what Gamescope is a Wayland microcompositor that just talks to the GPU, it sits in the middle, and then you have the Steam interface over the top, and that's it. There's no launching Steam going through, for example, Hyperland or KDE and down, and then but they allow you to session switch over to KDE on the Steam Deck, and that means all the games can be controlled. The lag, you can get HDR working, you can get VVR working, you can get everything working. So that's the Steam Deck now. Obviously, we're on the desktop versions of everything, and it's a very different world because people don't really use it like that. If you're coming over, now this video is very much for people who are coming from Windows. If you're like old school Linux and I can do all this stuff, you know, this isn't for you. My point with this video is that if you're coming from Windows, you're expecting certain things. You're expecting things to work. I mean, a Windows fault finding session is basically you launch the game, it doesn't work. You change the drivers, it doesn't work. You flatten the system, reinstall Windows 11, put the latest drivers on, run the game. If it still doesn't work and you get some error, you go and look on a forum, there's some kind of bug and they'll release a patch. And that's literally what you do, isn't it? You know, there's no real diving into the system and tweaking things. It doesn't really work. So Linux is a bit different. Anyway, so let's imagine you're a Windows user and you're coming over to use games on Windows. Now, your first step on Linux, your first steps will be you'll install Steam, you'll launch your games, and then you'll probably encounter a few issues. And you'll start to look on Reddit and all these things, and someone will mention you should run it in Gamescope, and then you'll start to go down that road. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to jump on the computer and we'll go through that. We'll go through, you know, Windows user, you're coming over to Linux and you're about to launch some games, and then we'll talk you through the process, and then I'll show you why. We'll install my games launcher, and then you'll see the difference between using a proper Gamescope session, which is what Steam is intended to be doing on Linux, not the desktop stuff that we see all the time with stupid Gamescope commands. That's not what it was designed to do. And we'll see the difference in the experience you have, really. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not interested in typing out tons of commands for every single game with a different setting and all these kind of things. I just want to play a game, which is, if you're coming from Windows, that's what you want to do, isn't it? You know, do all your other stuff, but I just want to press a button, play a game. So let's jump over to that and we'll go through how it works. Okay, so I'm on Omarchy as ever, and this desktop is called Last Horizon, and we are on 3.4.2 version, so the latest. And all I've done with this is I've gone in, I've launched my app launcher, I've gone into install, and I've gone to games, and then I've just done the default install of Steam. And then basically from that, I've launched it and logged into my account. So let's just have a look. So Steam, and let's launch Steam. It should launch, he says. There we go. So up it comes. So this is, I've done nothing else to the system. So basically, this is what you would expect to do. You'll jump into this and you want to play a game. So now I've got my games on an external drive, and this is something that's quite irritating. Every single time I do this, I have to go in here, I have to locate my external drive there, click select, and then add that drive, and now I can play my games. Now I'd have to do that on every single reboot. That's so annoying. I could write a script, which I have done, but I mean, you could write a script to do that, but that's really bad. So then the other thing you have to look at is compatibility. Actually, let's do the download. Switch off my enable shader pre-cache thing. You should do that. You don't need to do it. Compatibility now. Default compatibility tool is Proton Experimental. So I'm going to put Proton Hotfix, and now it will restart. You don't need to do this, but just say games just don't work sometimes if you don't do it, because they don't seem to pick up the compatibility. So here we go. We're back in again. And I'm going to just launch a simple game, a game that is popular, and we're going to launch it. It's loading up, and we'll just see what happens. Now it's started to download some stuff in the background. Let's stop that. Downloads. Let's stop. Tomb Raider always does this. Go to my library, and I'm going to launch Arc Raiders. Let's click that. Play. Let's see how it works. If it goes straight off the bat. And here we are. Let's just see if it goes. Now, you notice there's very limited control over what I do and will it work? I mean, I don't know. It's just saying it's launching. It's just telling me it's launching. It may do. You may get lucky. But I bet you if I hadn't done that first thing with the compatibility, I'd get compatibility tools not working. It just wouldn't go. So we're sitting here and we're waiting for it to launch. So obviously by now, if you're on a Windows machine, for example, you'd have launched this and you'd have something telling you what's going on. As you can see, this isn't a very good user experience. As it straight off the bat, it's just launching. I mean, I don't know if that's going to go, if it's frozen or not. It's down to your patience, but I mean, I can ramble on for a bit more, and we can wait and see what happens with that. And it's just sat there. It's telling me it's launching. Yeah. So I mean, this is basically. I mean, I don't know how long I should wait. Someone's going to watch this. Oh no, you need to wait a good 5 minutes before it launches. Here we go. It's running. What's happening? Is it going to go? Oh, and we're off. Impressive. It's launched. Failed to initiate dependencies. What does that mean? Now I'm using Proton Hotfix, which is the latest version of Proton. Now, a fatal error. The game has crashed with an exit code. So what would I do now? Now, obviously you'd start to Google that error and find out what you've got. And it may tell you to install something like Proton GE. And now you start to have to install other software. But my point is here, why would you do that? You know, why would you have to do this? You should just be able to play it, right? Okay, so the next thing, you know, let's talk about Gamescope. Now, certain games will work within Gamescope. Gamescope is this microcompositor. Now, I don't know, I'll give it a go on here. You need to set it up. Now, the first thing to remember here is Gamescope's not installed by default. When you install Steam, Gamescope isn't put on there. You have to actually install Gamescope as a separate entity because it's not really designed for, it's designed for session work, for like with the session thing we'll show you. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get set up and install Gamescope, and then we'll talk about it and what you can do with it, and then we'll try and relaunch Art Raiders with a Gamescope. We'll add some extra toys to get the game to work, if possible, in this format. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I'm going to install Gamescope because it doesn't exist on the system, and then we're going to try and run. I haven't done anything else to the system. I just got these commands up here. It's just easy to, I can't remember them, so I'm going to do this. So Control-C, and now what this is sudo pacman sync, which is capsets, Gamescope and Vulkan tools. Vulkan tools will allow us to test if it's working or not. So that should have copied. Okay, how have I copied that? Copy and install. So now I have Gamescope installed. So let's just test it. I do that wrong. I mean, Kate, copy, paste, and we've got our cube. It just shows you that that's working. So let's give it a that. Okay, so now I've got it installed and it's working. Now let's launch Art Raiders with this command. Now this will launch Art Raiders into Gamescope. It says copy. And how do we do that? Let's just go to our next screen and then let's launch Steam. Now, you can sort of see if you have to start to do things like this when you play games, and you've got me, I've got like 700 games. I've been using Steam since it originally came out. I'm that old. It's going to get pretty boring, and it's not really going to be very enjoyable. Let's stop that download again. View, library, downloads, and then is it doing it again? That's completed. Okay, so let's go back to the library. And there's Arc Radius. So let's click on Arc Radius, and now in here you've got a Properties tab, and you've got Launch Options. So what we're going to tell it to do is to launch into Gamescope in full screen with that command. Let's see what it does now. Let's see if it bins out on those dependencies again. Magic can happen. So now we're running inside Gamescope. I mean, I don't know if this will actually run. We're running inside Gamescope, inside Hyperland, which isn't the preferable way to do it. But you can see this is where a lot of people get to. Got some nice visual artifacts, and now as that crashed, got further than it did last time. Gonna go again. Probably going to bin out. But you can sort of see now Gamescope's giving it a bit more. We've moved forward, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to sort of try and go in now. Oh, it's doing it. Now I'm on 4K on an NVIDIA card, so this is always quite tricky. Let's see if it does it. Now, one of the problems with running Gamescope through another compositor is the fact that you're going to get issues with lag, sync, weird stuff with mice. I mean, one of the reasons when I first started writing off the games launcher for Omarchy, I did it all like this. I did it all with a nice console, if anybody can remember it. And you launched it, but the problem was you get the mouse being trapped and stuff like that. So it's trying to do it. Ooh, is it going to go again? No, it seems to be. That's interesting. Now, I haven't done anything. I literally just installed Gamescope and then just ran that command. I think one of the things is, and we'll go to the next part of this, the next part, because we shouldn't fundamentally be running Gamescope inside our Wayland system. But this is where we've all degenerated to with this, because the next bit is a bit of a jump. And as I was trying to explain, and that's why my games launch is focused on looking like a Steam Deck, is basically Gamescope, Steam, and everything is focused on Steam Deck. So it gives it one environment that everything can work in with Linux underneath. There we go. So we're in. Okay, so I've got, let's have a look at settings. Is it crashed out? Yeah, it's crashed. But not to worry, I mean, it ran. I mean, that got a lot further than last time. And I bet you if I do it again, I mean, Arc Radius is a bit of a funny thing. It does crash the first time and then it runs afterwards. That should just crash out. I'm going to do it. Application number 7, terminate. Yeah. Now, this actually does this on my system. It launches the first time, bins out, bins back to Steam, and then you launch it again. I don't know what that's an Arc Radius type. I didn't used to do it, but I think a patch has done something to it. Gonna let me out? Lock me in. So it's crashed. Yeah. Totally bin me out. Anything work? Calculator works. Trying it. Okay, let's just reboot. There you go. So it worked, but it crashed. And so you're on to your next set of issues. You think, oh, do I need Proton compatibility? Do I need GE Proton? And this is just a painful exercise. And you see people exchanging Gamescope commands online, you know, like this is how you play the game. One of the big things, so what we're going to do now, we're going to install my games launcher script for Omarchy, and then we're going to just do it again. And you can see that when you actually go into the Steam Deck environment, which is what they want you to do, then you don't get any of this. It becomes totally seamless, and you can just play your games. So yeah, so the Gamescope, at the moment, people are launching it through the Steam Deck, the Steam interface, and it's working, but you're not getting the maximum performance of it. let's just go onto here. Let's just go to my games drive. And this script is the update. This script is available in the description below for you for Omarchy. I'm working through doing versions for other OSs. I've done Mint. I've got an update to post for Mint. I've done Mint, and I've done Catchy, and I've done Pop as well. So let's bring up that to face, and then we're just going to actually let's is it that one? Super Shift. I'm going to move it. Is it Super Shift? There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install this, and then we are going to. Oh, I haven't got Kitty. Copy. And then we're just going to launch ArtRadius again. Now, one of the things that if you've used an earlier version of this, because I released it a few months back, this has been updated a bit. I've added some additional features in it, a bit of fine tuning, some extra bits I've nicked off of Catchy and things like that, and other stuff that memory compression and bits and bobs. There's some extra bits in there to give you a bit more Proton GE, yes please, and it's got Proton GE built in. So you can see if you were a gamer coming over from Windows, you've got a bit of a thing ahead of you, haven't you? You've got you don't really understand Linux in the first place. You're trying to launch stuff through Steam. You can't launch stuff through Steam. You need to put Gamescope on. So you're all over the internet looking for things for Gamescope. You put Gamescope and that's not quite working properly. Something's crashing. This doesn't work. And it's just a disaster because the whole platform you're using isn't designed to be used like this. It's designed to be used like, as we'll see in a second, it's designed to be used in Gamescope mode, in Steam Deck mode. And then everything works. So if it works on Steam Deck, it'll work on, it'll work on Linux. Now I've just realised we're not recording my screen here. What's going on there? It says format not supported. Something's gone on there. So anyway, you just have to sit through this. It's installing. Well, so it's going to reboot in a second anyway. So just bear with me. Let me just bash through this. Password, performance. And if you've ever done, it's all yes. Just answer yes. Did I press yes? That. Yeah. So sorry about that. You've got the thingy there. Video format not supported. Yes. It's going to do a reboot. So yes, yes. Just answer yes to everything. I think that's because of me doing that reboot thing. It should when it comes back. I can't stop this now, unfortunately. Okay. Reboot now. Yes. Okay, so hopefully when this comes back, it should pick it back up again. No signal. And it'll go in. Oh, video format not supported. I'm going to have to pull the old thingy out here and plug it back in again. Hang on. Let's try this. See if we get it back. Green. It's giving me a weird screen up there. Come on, you can do it. No signal. Could be this be the video with my. There we go. Okay, so I'm all ready to go now. As you remember, I've already logged into Steam. When you do on the new version, when you install the script on the new version, it will bootstrap Steam on the way in and ask you to log in. Just log in, exit, and it'll carry on and finish the install. Anyway, so how does this work? As usual, Super Shift S. Now, I don't have to add my drive because this script detects the drive and it will now launch into Steam Deck mode. And there's a couple of settings you have to do to start off with because you're in a deck mode, but you're in the environment you're supposed to be using Gamescope in, which is a Steam interface, Gamescope, Linux, GPU. You're not supposed to be Wayland, you're supposed to be Hyperland or GNOME, Gamescope, Steam, or whatever is going on there with all that kerfuffle. That will cause you tons and tons of issues. So, but it's interesting. Catchy has a deck mode, but you have to boot to deck mode. Bazai has a deck mode, and you've got Chimera, which has a deck mode as well. They automatically install Steam at Gamescope, and they work like that. But I mean, my view is you should be able to just switch to it. So anyway, we're in here now. Let's just do Steam, settings, set an NVIDIA card, display mode. Set resolution now, it's capped at 256, 1440p, sorry. I don't have HDR, even though my monitor pretends to be HDR. And then I'm going to put my maximum resolution to that one. Okay, good. And then we just Control F2, go over here, advanced, and disable my frame rate limit. So let's just go into it now. We've got better compatibility now because during that install process we've got Proton GE. Just click that. I'm going to get rid of this, which is my Gamescope command, and then go into here, force compatibility, Proton GE, and now we'll launch the game. And doing it this way as well, as you can see, it's a much more interactive process. It's like much more like a console. There's nothing frozen in time. Now, if I install this script from scratch and skip all the rest of the rubbish I've just done to show you about it, then, you know, I'd be just playing games. Now, this may crash on its first way in, because it's now running through Gamescope. And as I said, it is a bit funky with this first launch, but who knows? But it's a much better experience for gaming. It's not as random and rogue. Now, if you don't want to do it like this, you can launch stuff through Gamescope. You can do it, but I'm going to show you something horrendous in a second about Gamescope, because you need to become basically a rocket scientist to get all your configuration correct, and you have to really be into terminal and all these kind of things. And why? There's no just launch the game. So here we go. It's going to come up. The fans ramping up. Something's happening. Here we go, and I switched on Mango HUD, just overlays at the top there. I wouldn't use the inbuilt one in Steam because that's got a few glitches. But I mean, I have to say, it won't take this long every time you launch. But I mean, I went down this one because it's just a cleaner way. Personally, I do video editing and edit work in this thing. I do not want to spend my time writing scripts to launch a game. You know, I don't mind writing scripts that do something which are programs in their own right, or bash scripts to do some function, but just launching a game, and you need to write a script to launch the game, so every single one's different. And it's like, I mean, that's what, when we get back out of this, I'll show you Gamescope help, and it shows you all the switches you can use. And to me, it's a bit redundant. I mean, I know they put it in, they've given, because it's open, you know, they give you as much as you can possibly do. Let's try it. There we go. But if it does crash here, what will happen, it will just go back to Steam, back to the Steam mode. It won't bin you out of the system. It won't bin you back to Hyperlink, because it doesn't know how to get back. It's like lost. So he'll get there, he says. It will. One of the other things with this, so just an upgrade a moment here, is getting on the servers can be a bit tricky at times. Because you get on them, here we go. So that's binned out the first time. Now, if I do that now, but you see what happened, it went back to the system. If you do it now, this is just an upgraded thing, it'll launch. Every time, I don't know where we got to with this. There was a patch that happened and it won't launch the first time. You always have to do it the second time. Once it's up, it just plays. I don't know what that's about. But it was there was a patch and it started to do it. Now it should work. And it should be a bit quicker as well. Some kind of caching thing, I don't know. There we go, look, it's all zipping through now. Possibly, maybe I need to leave the shader caching on for this. Don't know. We should be, there we go. So what I'll do, I'll come out of this and we'll look at Gamescope itself in the command line. And you'll see why it's a bit of an epic. Alright, there we are. Escape. Exit. Yes, quit. And that just takes us back to the Steam Deck mode. Now you can go through and just force compatibility on any game you want to Proton GE, but that's really all you have to do. I mean, with this script, you just go Super Shift R, and you come back out to the desktop. Now, one thing with this, it does shut down your desktop environment. So if you were doing something beforehand, it doesn't work. If you want to stream this, that's a different ballgame altogether. I'm working on a streaming part to how to do OBS inside this. We'll get that. I think the part of Vulkan's broken, so that's why I'm having problems with it. Anyway, so okay, so let's just bring up and let's do Gamescope, and then it's --HEP. And there you go. Okay, so these are all the flags and things you can put on your Gamescope command when you paste it into Steam. So you've got Wayland, you've got all this stuff. Now, if you're coming from Windows, you have no idea what this stuff means. No idea. Force X11 connection synchronization. Disable XRES for PID lookup. So a lot of this, you've got some shortcut cookies there, toggle full screen. So you've got some stuff there that may make sense. HDR, -ITM target, -nits, set target luminance of 100 in most turn mapping process. I mean, that's a normal conversation point, isn't it? That's what we're all talking about. Anyway, you can see that's chaos. All that control is in that Steam Deck interface. So if you've got HDR, you can adjust it. You want to go full, it's already in there, full screen. You can play with the games, you can do it. All that's built into that interface. This is just a nerd festival for people who want to like force composite, disable direct scan out, all these sorts of things. Full support for HDR, etc. If your display doesn't support your HDR, clients will be outputting SDR. It's like chaos. That's actually in the interface. So there you go. That is Gamescope. So let's come out of that and let's come back to me. All right, so I think that wasn't too boring because I mean there's a lot to cover there with Gamescope, but I think it's the whole thing with Steam, with gaming on Linux is very sort of, it's gone in the wrong direction. People come from Windows and they're expecting to run a game, have another monitor with their browser on it, and use that and play games. Now, maybe you can. Sometimes you can. Certain games won't probably work very well. You'll have all sorts of issues. And if you're coming over from Windows, it's chaos, really, for people. And then you start to get into a super nerdy mode of running Gamescope inside another compositor, which it was never designed to do. That's not what that's why they went to Arch and to the Steam Deck, so they wouldn't have to use the Debian with the interface of Debian, and that's why they actually created the compositor. As I said, it was like Steam Comp Manager in the Debian version on the original Steam 1 and Steam 2 OSs to get away from the whole kerfuffle. So there you go. So if you're an old Linux person and you're looking at me, you're looking at this going, that's just, I can do these commands, it's easy, you should be typing it on. That isn't going to help, okay? Because if you want to come over to Linux and you don't want to dive too deep stuff, it's just a learning curve, it's a steep one and you should learn it, but you want to get something out of it, you don't want to hit a wall. If you can't play your favourite game, if it's Steam Deck compatible, you can play it on this. Now, if it says it's Steam Deck compatible and you try and launch it through Steam and you can't get it to work and then you're in Gamescope, then you know you're doing something wrong. So if you are new to this, just don't do the Gamescope thing. Use it for Omarchy. Over time, my scripts will go out for all the distros. We're going to do Fedora at some point as well. So you can switch and it's easy to do Gamescope. Do a Gamescope session so you can all do it. I've done some mint ones. They're in the members area at the moment because some of the members are helping me like bug fix them. So there's a mint one and all these. But eventually I'll put them out. I will get around to doing a Git. So you can just literally do your installation, download the script, play games. And that's the aim of it. Anyway, so I hope that rant was okay. I'm just keen for people not to get stuck, really. I mean, Linux is great. Okay, it's the future. But if you hit a wall straight away, I mean, I've just been watching that Linus Tech Tips guy, and he's just struggling with Pulp, and then the other guy's struggling with Bazai, and it's just difficult to watch. But you could build a tool. Steam could build a tool to do that straight off the bat instead of that interface you've just seen there with Steam and all those bits. Who knows? Anyway, in the meantime, I'll keep banging out the scripts for this, and hopefully, when I get them all on a Git, they'll be easy to be installed on any distro, and you can play games really simply. Anyway, thanks for watching.